Hello. Hello
Hello.
to hello. How are you?
I'm good, and how are you?
Very nice. Very nice. I was expecting this meeting for quite time,
Yeah,
and I'm so happy to have you here.
I'm very happy to be here as well.
Yes, this is my friend Graham. Graham is an islander. He's coming from Vancouver Island, where I live currently. But today he will join us from Ottawa, from capital of Canada. So
Hmm.
yes, Graham is a senior engineer in one IT company. So we will mention that, but this time we won't talk about it. But I want to mention because he's helping me a lot uh, because we are working in the same company, and I'm so glad he accepted to help out this way too. So thank you, Graham.
You're very welcome.
So let's start with Ottawa. Can
Sure.
you introduce me with your city? I haven't been ever there.
Yeah, so Ottawa's an interesting city. It actually is a big city that feels like Victoria. It's the capital of Canada, so with that, there's a lot of federal government, there's a lot of language, there's a lot of history, but there's a lot of culture. We're actually, like, the French-Canadian border is about 20 minutes north of where I live. So I
Mhm.
could hop in the car and drive over the border straight into Quebec, and it's 100% French. There's also quite a huge amount of immigrant culture here. There's shawarma places, more than there's Starbucks. There's Caribbean food, Jamaican food. It's a
Mhm.
wonderful multicultural area, and it's also a very, very French area. English is actually the minority in most of Ottawa, and where we live is called Orleans, and it's named after the Maid of France, if you will.
Mhm.
And it's primarily French Canadians, so we're actually in the minority out here.
Wow, I didn't know that. I didn't know that, and I have to ask you, do you speak French?
My French is rather rusty. I did learn it on the West Coast, but being on the island, there's much less French. So
Mm.
coming out here, if I go to Home Depot, people seem to think I look French. So they'll ask me questions in French first, and then I have to stammer through it before I get English.
Oh, you're a perfect example for my project because I want to say that this is like immigration, what we are currently experiencing. And you being in your own country, but on a different side, in
Hmm.
these circumstances, you are really a good
Yeah,
example of an immigrant in your own country, but in a
totally.
good way, because immigration for me, I don't attach bad emotions, you know? So for me, when I say
I
immigrant,
agree.
oh, nice. I didn't
Well,
know that.
and diversity as well. I mean, of immigration, you have people who have different experiences and life experiences that you could never empathize or imagine yourself. And they're joining you where you live, and there's so much more you can learn.
Hmm.
And similarly, like, the culture from West Coast Canada to East Coast Canada is very different. Here, anybody who sees you walking in your neighborhood will wave to you, ask how you're doing. There's kitchen parties all the time. Not so much now, of course,
Hmm.
but it's also much colder. So
Hmm.
we actually had snow on the ground a week and a half ago, and then it's 20 degrees Celsius today.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
Wow. That's a huge difference. But you know, you got to be curious, you know, in order to open up and you know, you got to be it's a lot of people would love to know, but you know, they always find excuses not to engage in other communities.
Very
And
true.
Canada is very different. I don't
Hmm.
know all parts of Canada, I haven't been, but so far what I've seen, there is some curiosity behind. Maybe you can say something about that. You were born here. I came 10 years ago, but you were born. So maybe you can say more. Like, how do you see that? Why people are so comparing to many countries in the world? Why they're so open? How it's they
Well, one
are
of the biggest
interested.
things I think with Canada, yeah, well, we're a very young nation.
Mhm.
Only like 170 years old, or even that. And most of the people here who grow up, like me as an example on the West Coast, you don't have any culture. Your
Mhm.
family, like, you were second or third generation French immigrants,
Mhm.
and we had no culture beyond, we lived in a suburb in Victoria. My sister and I went to school. and we were just a lucky little white family, and that was it. You had no personality. There was no history or lineage. You know what I mean? So you were always fascinated by someone who did, because you want to learn. Where did that come from? How does that change your life? Is that something that is set in stone, or is it more of something to learn from? And from that, my sister and I have always wanted to learn.
And just that's a nice. I was on the other side. Everything was set up. Tradition is, you know, pretty. I don't want to say solid, but it's changing. But it's still, there are a lot of sameness, and I always wanted to reach out, like what it's like to be new, what it's like to be young, what it's like to explore and not be defined with this. You know, we are like, and now we are meeting in between.
Totally, and I agree with you, because with when you have a rigid tradition, people don't explore or find out who they are or what of it they love. And it's not like you have to leave it behind. You just have to see why you love it.
There you go. That's why I love cultural interactions. And I've learned and I've accepted. I accepted everything I thought is wrong about my culture or my society by getting out of it. So I agree.
And I think some of the people look at what you said about things that you've done wrong, and Canada is very guilty of doing things wrong. And I don't think we should ever hide or do anything else about it than learn. If you did something wrong, learn what was wrong about it or how you went about it wrong, and make sure it doesn't happen again.
Make sure. Yeah, easier said than done.
Yeah, it's a bit of a systemic problem, and systems are difficult when you have people involved.
Yes. Okay, let's hear because we are now meeting because of the coronavirus situation. And I want to know how or did it affected your community?
Oh, yeah.
All the situation. So I want to hear what it's like, what was like this last two months, 9 weeks, 2 months?
Yeah, so for us, it actually started a bit early because my wife's sister is living with us right now because it's just safer and easier for everybody. And actually, while the outbreak was happening in Southeast Asia, she was traveling in Thailand. So she actually was one of the last flights that was allowed to come back to Canada before the original bans happened. And she had the whole fever check and everything while she was there. She had to self-isolate. So we were very aware of it at that stage. And then it just became, it became a little too real. We had to self-isolate. I had to be the only designated shopper, and everything just got quiet. We have 3 schools within 1 kilometer of our house, and there's no one driving, no one walking to school. It's just quiet.
Totally different than my experience here.
Really?
Totally different. We were joking, to be honest. We didn't get it seriously, and I was supposed to travel that week when Premier Trudeau came out and said, like, no essential travels, like you have to stop. So for me, it was like, I'm going on vacation, and I was in that mode, refusing to know what is going on, refusing, like, I'm planning this, I want to be there. I was already there, you know, everything. I put a lot on that holiday, and suddenly I had to back out. And I was, to be honest, I have to admit, I was even angry, like, I don't want to be here. Whereas you, and can I ask about her? Like, did she came back? Everything went well? She's good?
She was okay. She didn't have any symptoms. There was no indication that she was an asymptomatic carrier. So she self-isolated in her apartment, but then realized it was very difficult to maintain social distancing in her apartment. They had shared laundry spaces and small hallways, and other people weren't really respecting the boundaries. As well, she's a very extroverted person. She always saw her friends and was struggling with her mental health from just being stuck at home. So after her initial isolation, we invited her to come just kind of stay with us until this all blows over, if you will.
Yeah, good that she has you, you know?
Yeah.
It's very good, because I can't imagine many people being stuck in their house alone, or, you know, that feeling, I'm left outside alone, you know? It's a weird and it's hard feeling. So okay, that's sad to hear. That's sad to hear. And right now, is it getting better? Is it? Do you?
Sort of. So people, for the most part, have understood how to do the social distancing, and for the most part, respect it.
Mhm.
Oddly enough, the people who seem not to respect it are those that are most at risk of the coronavirus. So that's strange. But beyond that, I mean, Home Depot's open now. Grocery shopping is fairly standard. You just follow the steps. But it's still quiet. The busiest time of the day is right after dinner at about 6 p.m. Every family seems to decide it's our time for our regimented walk today. And
Mhm.
everyone just goes and walks around, and that's about it.
The same. I could say the same for Victoria.
Mm-hmm.
I go outside at the end of the working day,
Sure.
and it's the same. It's the same. But yesterday I had some obligations, so I went during the day, and the city is like empty,
Yeah,
empty,
it's nice for
empty.
commuting. I'll say that.
Yes. Okay. When I reach out to you and I proposed this project
Yeah.
and asked to join me, I was glad that you accepted. But the moment I mentioned Corona and
Yeah.
situation we're all in, you
Mm-hmm.
said, Natasha, but this was already a pretty tough year for me.
Yeah.
So I would love to go back with you. You moved. We mentioned that you moved. Is it
Last August.
last August? So 10 months. It's not a full year yet.
Almost.
Almost. And that's a lot. When you say tough, I was moving a lot, and I'm an immigrant as well, so I know what it's like to be in that transition. So
Yeah.
can you say more about that? Because
Sure.
many people will after Corona, after we reopen this country and go back to normal, many people will be in that transition when they have to start over. So I thought that your example would be one that they need to hear.
Sure. I think one of the biggest things when it comes to moving here in Canada is appreciating the scale of our country. As an example, if you live in Switzerland and you want to move out of Bern, the longest you're going to drive to the other end of your country is 3 hours. Whereas when we moved, all of the logistics of getting our stuff from Victoria to Ottawa aside, it took 5.5 days straight of driving 12 hours a day to get from the West Coast to where we live now.
Many people cannot comprehend that. Like many people
Yeah.
it's like, what do you mean? It's like driving 12 hours and you're just in another province, or maybe you're reaching the province,
Yeah.
you're still not there.
So our first day, we woke up at 4 in the morning and we were on the road at 5 a.m. It was myself, my stepdad, and my 2 cats because we couldn't fly them. It was too hot. We got in a car, we took the first ferry, and we drove straight from 5 a.m. till 7 p.m. And that day we got to Calgary. That was one day.
And this is, so he started from BC, for those who don't know,
Yep.
like BC, and this is Alberta, so he
Yep.
just went to the next state
And like the most western part of that like little province, we just got over the mountains. That was it.
in Europe. You would be from Serbia to Sweden already.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
So that was a bit much, to be honest. But the biggest thing with Canada is it is so different. So you go from BC, which is lush, beautiful forests and mountains, and you go through the huge Rocky Mountains, which is some of the most amazing scenery you'll ever see. And you go through like the glacier lakes and the glacier mountains, and then suddenly it's flat. And it's literal badlands where they found dinosaurs, or what you'd picture from an old Western film. And then you get to Saskatchewan, where it's rolling green hills and flat again. And then you get to Manitoba, where it is the definition of flat, where you can see your dog running away for 3 days straight. And then you get to Ontario, where it's nothing but small lakes and trees. That's about it.
Wow.
Yeah.
I want to see that. I want to go that road.
Girl, I recommend it. If you can do the drive from where you are, like Vancouver up through the Rockies to Banff, maybe a little bit north, Calgary, etc. It's wonderful.
Mm-hmm. But what I want to know, because everything is different, you had to find your new home.
Yep.
You have to find your new like friends.
Totally.
And that takes time. We all know that it's easy to buy a house, but to make a home from that house, it's a long journey. It's the same. It's easy to say, how are you? How do you do? My name is Graham, but to find friends and that, social networking is hard. What was your experience?
In my experience, I have an advantage where I don't know if I'm blessed, but I happen to get along with a lot of people very well. And I think one of the biggest reasons for it is I have a good idea of who I am. And in any social interaction or community, I don't try and adapt who I am to that interaction. I'm rather just myself. And if, I'm going to be a part of that, I'd rather bring who I am and my experiences. And through that, I think I learn a lot about other people. They learn a fair bit about me. And we just kind of seem to understand each other better.
Mm-hmm.
As an example, so our next door neighbors that we met the first day that we moved in, about 3 days later, we were planning a trip to California together because we get along a little too well.
That's like too fast.
Oh yeah, exactly. And they have an 18-month-old daughter. Well, I guess she's older now. She's 6 months older than my son, and they love each other. We know all the neighbors around. Some of Sophie's old friends from when she was young still live in Ottawa. Mm-hmm. So it's nice. It's a very welcoming area, and I think if you put the positive energy out, it'll be returned to you.
Amazing to hear that your transition was smooth, like in that case, because I can say from my own experience, I had both. I had places where I could feel at home in just 2 weeks, a month, and I wanted to stay. But I had opposite ones where I needed like a year to build the community and to feel at ease, not to compare. That's the trickiest for me, like not to compare, not to say. So you were in that case much open, and that's good to know. It's when you just said like I know who I am. That makes a difference, because you don't you're putting out different energy, and people then react on that. So it's not only always on them, it's on us as well.
Yeah, and you made a very good point though about you don't need to compare. Like if it does take longer, as an example, or someone reacts poorly, or someone else had an easier experience, it doesn't cheapen your experience or their experience by being a little annoyed, because you always want it to go better, right?
Yes.
And it's progress. Every day you just try something. If it doesn't work, it didn't work. You're still you, they're still them. Right?
Yes, but that's also now that's Canadian way. Also, I call that Canadian way. Give some space. Give some space for that relationship to develop. Yep. And I love that strategy. I learned a lot when I came about that. Like, this is my space, this is your space, but in between there is a room and we can build up, but we need time. And that's a good, I didn't have that, to be honest, when I was younger.
Sure. Neither did I, to be honest. I didn't even know who I was. It took me a good 30 years to figure that one out.
But you're a fast learner, I can tell.
I do what I can.
Okay, so that's about transition. So people will have, even in this situation, different experiences.
Definitely.
I can imagine others saying, I actually needed something to stop me, to rethink about what is going on and what I want. Whereas others will say, no, get me back to my normal, or what I thought it's me. So I can imagine both situations. Do you think the same?
I agree. And I think for a lot of people as well, you're losing control of your life for the first time. All of a sudden, you can't go outside, you can't do what you want, or you can't maintain a status quo. You're almost forced to find a new medium or a new routine.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of people are learning a lot about themselves or their relationships because, you know, if you can just go and hang out with friends at a pub and have a very shallow interaction, you don't learn as much.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're stuck in a room together for 3 months, you learn a lot.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
yeah.
Fast and forced transformation.
Yeah.
Fast and forced. Intense.
It is.
And for
But
some people.
It's very good. Sorry, go ahead.
Yes. No. We agree on this. But you know, many transitions are on the one side, they're bringing new things.
Yep.
And a lot of people, you and I can say I'm easy to open to new.
Yep.
But we all know that while opening, we have to release this old thing. And that can be tricky.
Very much.
Releasing that old, because as for myself, I can say that I always feel like emotional loss. You know, when you're moving, you're leaving somebody behind you. And that's sometimes hard to take.
Well, and do you feel a little bit of safety in those emotions? Like it's a known emotion, right? And it's a part of you, it's a part of your life, and you almost feel grounded with that emotion? Yeah, I feel that a lot as well. And it was one of the biggest things I struggled with changing my life or accepting who I am. There are aspects and emotions you have felt that you may have to let go, or people you may have to let go. But it doesn't mean they didn't happen. It doesn't mean you can't remember them and cherish them. It doesn't mean you can't continue to live that experience. It's not present anymore. And that's very, very difficult to do.
Yes, I agree. Let's go deeper.
Sure.
What are the biggest challenges this transition brought to your life? Especially, I didn't say, you are in that point or in that moment in your life when you start a family recently, but you have a young kid and there is a lot of responsibility, a lot of obligations, and we all know that those starts can be very challenging. But for some people, they are even much more harder. So I want to see where are you standing?
Sure. This actually, I don't want to say in anywhere the corona has been good, but it's forced my wife and I to take stock of what we're doing in our lives. As you know, when you have young children, you don't sleep as much. And your schedule is very regimented around their routine. So a lot of what was happening is my young son would wake up early and I would wake up early because I'm easier in the mornings. And then you look after him and you're happy to do it. It's your child. You always put that energy into it. But as soon as you're quote unquote off duty with the child, I would then start work. And I would work all day and then make dinner and then we'd play with the child again until they go to sleep. So then it's almost like you're waiting for them to be asleep to be able to have a day. And you start losing time because you're not working on you. You're not, making a routine. You're just doing what you can to survive. And this corona has actually kind of forced us to figure a routine that works. I think the biggest challenge for us was, as you said, is putting down those foundations and truly feeling rooted in place, because we had just gone through such a big move. The job was the same. I was very lucky I didn't have to change jobs, but we're all just kind of adjusting to a new place, and it's very easy to feel like it's an in-between. But we really focused on making sure that this is our home. We're going to be here for a good long while. And you start to find, what is it you care about your home? What do you want to improve? What do you enjoy? And we've just tried to focus on that. It's been great. I mean, having the cats, they're all over this house, terrorizing the neighborhood. My son loves it. He has so much room. And it's such a lovely place. It's a little cold in the winter, I'll admit. Negative 30 Celsius one time, but yeah.
And did Corona change that routine in any way, and how?
One of the biggest things was we used to take Teddy to a baby group that we could walk to at a local school. We can't do that. We can't go to any public rec centers. We can't take them to the library, which we used to go to twice a week. And any of those things that we do to really help socialize our child, we just take them out in public. But now you can't. And we're trying to keep his development and his social interaction up without being able to see people too close. So that's been a bit difficult.
Yes, yes. And the other day I was talking with my friend whose daughter is a teenager.
Okay.
And she said, you know, everybody are asking me like how she's dealing, you know, how she's coping. She's a teenager, she needs her friends, you know, she doesn't need your family, she needs her friends, and that's her identity right now. And, you know, I started explaining, and then I remember you, Natasha, and I was like, your daughter is, you know, first grader. How did you explain to her this situation? And then I said, it's funny that you're asking me. I always thought, you know, those ones who had toddlers, how did they? So we are all asking each other. Yes, yeah. Because I can say, you know, we were walking and my daughter, she wanted to go to the park. And then we were like, we need to sit, and there is a virus. And I had one video, a friend from Qatar, she sent me, you know, what it's like when you have germs on one place and why we are using sanitizer and what is, you know, what is the effect. So it's like, let's see the movie and you see why we are not able to go on a swing. But then I said to myself, if she was 2 or 2.5, 3, how would I explain? How did you explain?
Well, and that's kind of been the very difficult part, because they don't necessarily understand that kind of logic, right? They just see a thing like a dog walking by and they want to pet it. And it's very difficult to then say, well, you can't because of a nebulous virus you can't see. So it's been a little hard, but they've started to figure it out. Like the kids start to respect it as long as you still kind of get outside. So it's a lot of give and a lot of hard conversations and a lot of meltdowns. I'll give you that.
Come on. We don't want to be those. I always said, I don't want to be that parent who is constantly saying, no, 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 no. But exactly. I remember when she started walking, I was one of those. How do you feel about that new normal?
I think it's good. There's a lot that has been accepted in society all over the world as this is just how it is. It's too difficult to change. And this has forced that change. There's a lot of things that are being done that you now can't. So people and companies and businesses and governments are being forced to look at those hard problems and take action.
And it's good. I always say, like, you're not like every country is in the same position. You know, totally. It's not like some Canada, but us in Europe, we don't care about that. But everybody, and I think, you know, when people start gathering and doing the best for themselves, then we can make, you know, we can all sit together and say, okay, what's the best there? What is the best here? Let's see, like, let's see, yes, what works, and then, and we can, you know, make more steps ahead in faster than we did before. So I also think, but you know, a lot of people think that it's with this social distancing and new normal, we are actually losing a lot of freedom or choices. What do you think about that?
I would agree. I mean, that's the thing. It's a physical freedom that you're losing. But I will say on the flip side, a lot of people are more understanding of mental well-being now. As an example, I have a number of American friends who live in Colorado, New Mexico, or one in San Francisco. And we just check in with each other every night. We have like a little Discord server that we all talk to each other, and you just check in. So I don't get to see them, but we get to make sure someone's okay or hear how their day went. And I think that's really important.
Yes.
Because they're still human. It's not a person I can see and touch, but I can still care about them.
Yes. I have the same experience. I have. And I found out for other communities, like my friend is opera singer, and now everything what is going on in her theater, not everything, but a lot of things, new things are going on, and they're putting online. And suddenly I'm the member of that community. So for me, that was a huge, I don't need to be overseas to see what is going on there. So it's, in a sense, that's a plus. But I am person to person, you know, I love face-to-face interaction. So I do miss going to the school playground and meeting other moms. And I do miss playground. At least I don't feel the difference between work life and family life. Everything became, in a sense, the same.
It is, and you're never off because you're either working or you're looking at your phone because someone sent you a work message.
Yes.
Like, as an example, when you and I were talking just before this, one of our coworkers saw I was online and asked if I was working so he could ask me a question.
And it's a weekend.
It's Sunday morning. I don't want to work.
Yes. That's a minus. It's a huge minus.
Totally. And it's a difficult balance. And I think it's something that governments and society as a whole is going to have to look at, because though we're all effective workers remotely, and I've been doing it for a long time, it is difficult to have like a regimented, this is where I work, this is when I don't work. I'm not working or I am working.
Can you say more about that? Because I think a lot of people will remain in this working from home, which means that will affect their family life. So you now have 2-3 years of experience?
Yeah, so I was doing it, I was working from home for 1.5 years before I joined our current company, and then I've been doing this for 3 years. So it's been a while. I don't think I've actually commuted to an office in a long time. And it has its advantages. Like, I can work in my pajamas in the winter and it's nice and cozy. But as an example, I'm 3 hours ahead of the West Coast. So I'll get emails at 2 a.m. that someone who is working late sent, and I might need to see it. And though I'm not expected to look at it, I still wake up and still notice it. So I think companies need to be able to say, when are you happy working? And people should be okay saying, I will work these times and not outside.
Yes.
Very difficult, because you feel like you should. Everyone's working hard, especially now. Everyone's going through something new. And there's nothing wrong with saying, I've worked my time, I'm on it.
Yes. Boundaries.
Yeah.
Boundaries.
And it's a balance.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. Because I don't want to be in a same mindset. I can say for myself, even when I'm reading, I'm reading, I'm focused, my attention is there, but when I'm off, I want to be off.
Yeah,
and this looks like we are all entrepreneurs, even when you're not working, you're
thinking about work. Yeah.
Yes. So there is no that switch. And
when you have emails at any time, you're just waiting. It's almost like you're an on-call doctor, without the stress right now, obviously, but you're just waiting for something to go off that says you suddenly need to pay attention again.
Yes.
Instead of just resting.
Yes.
I'd say the biggest thing is to realize everyone's different. Like, I work different than other people. Some people are more effective at different times. And whenever you hear advice, the biggest thing is to not take it as gospel. In no way is it written in stone. It's just advice. And like you said, it's a stepping stone. So try something, see what works, see what doesn't work, and then grow from there. And then once you grow from there, you'll find what works for you. And when it's your own schedule and your own system, it's a lot easier to do. That's the biggest thing.
But I have to say, you are the one who is opening, I would say, I say always curious, but the one who is opening and adjusting, and you love that state, and you know what is flow. But I can imagine a lot of people in this situation resisting.
Definitely.
Resisting. This is my way, and I don't want to give up.
Yep.
So I can imagine a lot of I don't know what is the word, but a lot of people will push back.
Yep, I totally agree, because they don't want change. And I think a lot of that boils down to anxiety, as you touched on earlier. It's very scary to suddenly have to change and to have no guarantee that life will ever be better than it was. or easier than it was, or that your short-term investment is going to be short-term. What if we do this for 3 years? I don't know. It's difficult to kind of take that leap of faith, and that's why you have to think in yourself.
Yes, yes. It has to do a lot with that sense of control and power, you know. You have to lose it, and sometimes you think you're losing too much, but it is good. I remember my first isolation. Now I know what I did wrong. I was so stuck, you know, so stick to some, I don't want to say old routines, but I didn't see that those changes are for better.
Okay.
And then I was resisting a lot. And I was very, very angry, very angry. Whereas now, somehow, you know, all that struggle made some room in me. And I see that better. I see that better coming. I see. But I know that it's on us, you know.
Yeah. But like you said, you learned. And I think sometimes you have to go through that to learn. And in my case, I have struggled mightily with anxiety and depression most of my life, especially with imposter syndrome, where day to day, I just feel like maybe I'm not actually good at what I do. Maybe I'm terrible and everyone just doesn't tell me that. And it's those little voices that then tell you and you get stuck in your routine. It's hard, girl. It's hard.
I cannot imagine you in that state, because every time I have a problem on work, I know that you're the one who can solve the problem. So, you know, some people are avoiding to send you a message, but not me. I'm like, Graham, help. I need help.
That's what I'm here for. Come on.
Yes.
You made a very good point. People look at you and say, you're not suffering enough for me to register you as suffering. But they have no idea how much you're suffering. And that's the point. People have this idea that to themselves, maybe like they think, I'm not suffering enough, so I shouldn't even ask for help.
Yes.
But you're still suffering. It doesn't matter how much someone else is suffering. It's not like there's some limit to the amount of help. People are people who are going to want to help, hopefully.
And this situation, especially now when we will reopen, I think a lot of people will need help, especially psychological help, you know.
Definitely.
to process all of these emotions and thoughts, and you know, although you need those adjustments, but sometimes you need somebody from outside to tell you or to reflect on, just to give you that feedback.
For that's always worked for me, is you start to realize kind of, you know, what's happening. You can't control your emotions, similar to you can't control coronavirus. So, though something you may feel one way, down or up, you can't stop it from happening. All you can do is let it happen. And then take stock. Oh, okay, how did I feel? I felt this way. Why did I feel that way? Think about it to yourself. And then the more and more advanced you get in that, you don't need the therapy to help guide you. You can help guide yourself, right?
That's right. That's right. But it's like we all have to bounce. We all have ability to bounce back and recover from everything and anything. Everybody. Some people need, and for some situation, you need more time. More time. You have to be mature for some situations. Mature. You need perspective.
Yes.
Perspective, yes. But we are all, and I do believe that, you know, trauma is, as they say, the fact of life. Loss is the fact of life.
I agree.
If you are living, you will lose something or somebody, or you will experience any type of trauma. But we have that inner ability to recover. We are, so we just have to build up that resilience. And as you said, we are doing that by experiencing all those emotions, inviting all those emotions, and asking, as you just said, like, why I'm feeling this? Can I do this? Can I, you know, you need to be able to tolerate them.
And it's very difficult to look at someone going through an experience like that and say, what do I do? Like if someone's crying because they've gone through loss and they're a friend of yours, your immediate reaction is, I want to help. but I don't know what to do. And I feel like, as you said, it's just part of life. Everywhere in nature is loss, no matter what. And the more people think of it and look at it as, if I accept loss as existing, it's going to happen to me. That's not, it's a reality of life. And the more you hear about and talk about and empathize, the stronger you are should you ever go through it, but the more help you can provide others who might be going through it.
So one of your advices for people who are currently experiencing losses, it's like, talk about it. Talk about it. Do
not feel like it's not you, because loss, no matter what, means something has ended. It doesn't mean something didn't happen. In no way is some loss more or less than other loss. It's loss. Like, I know many people who we've talked to, and we felt it ourselves, that we were lucky, if you will, in the ways we've experienced loss, and we didn't have to experience it in other ways, or I shouldn't feel sad because this person had it worse. And those are very dangerous thoughts and slippery slopes, because you can get stuck thinking that and you won't reach out for help. But it's real. Everyone goes through it. And the more you talk, the less you carry yourself.
Yes, I agree. I agree. Because, but my experience is telling me, not with everybody.
Well, true.
Not with everybody, you know. And culturally, we are different, Graham. In some cultures, it's like, keep it for yourself and put up a good face. You know. And it's a lot of shame in that dynamic. So whereas other communities, or maybe I could say cultures, are a little bit, but I think that we are all getting into that zone where, like, we are realizing that we have to talk, we need that release as individuals, as groups, as nations. Like, we need that space. It's
part of your health, right? Your mind is as much a part of your body as your body. And for so long, you made a very good point, people had looked at someone who may have been struggling mentally or going through something like this, who then talked about it, as weak. Like, you're weak for accepting it, or weak for admitting that it's affecting you. You're not. It's not like I'm suddenly any less masculine for saying I've gone through it than someone else who's the exact same as me but didn't. And slowly, I think that stigma is starting to die down. It's always been prevalent, and a lot of people will still look down on you for having gone through it, and you can't fix everybody.
Yes. Let's just continue with trust in life. Trust in life.
Sure. And trust in life is hard. I mean, you can look at everything that's happened. So we touched on loss, and that is something that my wife and I have experienced a lot this year. I mean, when coronavirus is number 3 in your top 3 worst things that's happened in 2020, that means you've had a fun year. But no matter how bad life is, it's life. And your life, however good or bad it may be, is your life. And the way I look at it, you have however much time you have left. And if you would like it to be good, you have to work at it. You need to make it good. You have to make it what you want. And if that means day by day you try and do something for yourself or brighten someone else, that's great. However you do it is great. But you have to have that faith that life will give back somehow. Or that your life is worth living. Because no matter what, you affect people around you. Maybe not your family, maybe anything else. But if you can put that energy into the world, I like to think you'll get it back.
Love to hear that. I wish everybody can be in that state, get out of the stuckness and get into the flow, get into that hope and empowerment. I read somewhere, because I spent some years being pretty stuck.
Sure.
And I remember reading, after many years, in English, not in my language, in English, losing hope is actually losing faith in yourself.
Yeah.
And I was like, but that's right. Once you lose, because being stuck is one thing, but because stuckness will get you in that state where you see walls all around you.
Totally.
And that's like, I lost faith. I'm losing the sense that I can break them, that I can get out, that I can stand for, you know, myself, or change something for good. So it's very powerful that you're saying, because I can sense flow. You say the coronavirus is the third, like it's not the worst thing you experienced this year, but I can sense the flow. So that's good. You're moving fast, and you're moving in a good direction. That's what's on my mind.
Thanks.
Love it.
I mean, if anything, it helps. I mean, I share what you said, and you made a very good point about the walls. When I was like at my most depressed at university or after, it's so easy to feel hopeless. And when you're hopeless, whenever you're trying to do something, any small hiccup feels like the end of the world. Like it could quite simply be like, I want to step over an obstacle and like I catch my shoe on it. Oh, well, that's the end. I'll never try again. I'll never do it.
Everything is against me.
Yeah. And even if I do, what does it matter? Nothing's going to happen. And that's hard, because I've been in that mindset before, and it's difficult to get out. But no matter what, doesn't matter if you have to do it again, or if you'll never stop doing it, you still did it. I think that's important.
Amazing. Thank you so much for this conversation. Thank you so much for taking us to Ottawa. I know that nap time is running.
He's gonna wake up at some point soon.
Yes. Thank you so much. I'm so glad, and I somehow I know that a lot of people will benefit from this conversation.
I hope so. I truly do. And thank you so much for having me be a part of this.
Always. Graham, have a great day, and try to rest. It's Sunday.
I'll give it a shot. How about when Teddy wakes up, I'll have a beer on the back patio. So that'll be
There you go. Good
great.
choice.
Thank you again, Natasha.
Yes. Have a great day.
You as well. We'll talk to you soon, okay?
Yes. Bye-bye.